Hey, welcome to another edition of the Rock and Rant. I'm Ryan King, and this installment is all about one thing, Lynyrd Skynyrd and Artimus Pyle. There's a brand new movie that's come out. It is called Street Survivors, the true story of the Lynyrd Skynyrd plane crash. And Artimus Pyle, one of the original drummers for Lynyrd Skynyrd, is the man behind the whole thing. So today we're going to be talking to Artimus about the movie, the plane crash, and many, many other things.
This is something that shouldn't have happened, but it did. There have been many variations and accounts of this story, but I was there.
Hello? Ronnie?
Yeah, I've been meaning to call you.
We came up with this idea. We're gonna bring out 5 sets of drums and 5 drummers. Have ourselves a little drum off.
What's going on?
I gotta go to Atlanta, baby.
Atlanta?
Yeah, trying out for Skynyrd.
Being the drummer of Lynyrd Skynyrd every day on the road was a hilarious adventure. We knew these songs backwards and forwards so well that we only had to think about how hard we wanted to hit it.
I'm the co-pilot. All I've ever dreamed of doing is flying a big rig with rock stars. After this, I'll be able to die a happy man.
All right.
Not what was coming next.
We need an airport. We are running low on fuel and just about out of it.
Ronnie, what are you doing?
Love you guys.
It didn't feel like the end of the world at the time. It felt like we're gonna go on. We're gonna be survivors. This is more than a story about the plane crash. It's about the music of Lynyrd Skynyrd, the greatest Southern rock band of all time.
Artimus, I want to thank you so much for joining me in the Rock and Rant and talking to me today. So I got a chance to see Street Survivors a couple different times a few days after it came out, and I was kind of poking and prodding on a few different Skynyrd like fan pages on Facebook and things like that to kind of see, you know, what people's reaction were to the people that have seen the film, and it's kind of a mixed batch there. One of the things I noticed straight away was a lot of people saying that well, what's going on with there's no Skynyrd music in the movie, and I wonder why they making a Skynyrd movie and no Skynyrd music. So what happened with that?
So anything that's wrong with the movie, anything that people don't like about the movie is Judy Van Zant's fault.
Really?
Because of her frivolous lawsuit. She sued us the entire time we were trying to make the movie.
Right.
Her and her $1,000 an hour blood-sucking weasel attorneys. So anything that's not perfect about the movie is her fault 100%. So, of course, I would have maybe liked to use a couple of songs.
Sure.
That are basically my songs, too.
Right.
Okay, but when we realized that if we used any of the music that Judy would come after, even after we beat her in the Court of Appeals, so that we could even do the movie.
Right.
Once we moved forward on that, and I had to kind of distance myself from the film for a while so that they would win the lawsuit, which we did.
That's great.
And Cleopatra Films lawyers did an incredible job of presenting the truth and showing where Judy is just a liar. There's 50 TV shows and movies that use Lynyrd Skynyrd music.
Yeah, they're all over.
So, to me, with a threatening of a lawsuit from Judy Van Zant and the fact that the music's been in a whole bunch of stuff,
yeah.
To me, I thought, what is the point of putting Sweet Home Alabama or Simple Man or Freebird one more time in a movie?
Right.
I mean, it was already, Sweet Home Alabama and Freebird were already in the greatest movie of all time, which is Forrest Gump.
I'm glad to hear you say that. I love that movie.
Ronnie Van Zant would be so proud that his songs were in a movie of the stature of Forrest Gump.
Absolutely. You
Because
got to
that's
wonder.
a landmark film.
You have to wonder, and of course it's all, speculation, but with everything that Judy did to not only stop the film from being made altogether, but then, stop the music from being in the film, like, you got to wonder what Ronnie would have to say about some of that. You know what I mean? Because, that wouldn't have been his position whatsoever.
Well, Ronnie was going to divorce Judy. That was a known fact. And after Ronnie was killed in that plane crash, Judy basically hit the lottery. And
Wow.
she's used that money against all of us in the band.
That is unbelievable. So
Her
when...
lifestyle of, buying a mansion every 6 months and
Yeah.
brand new cars every couple of weeks. And, back in the, after the plane crash, giant bags of cocaine and cases of Dom Perignon and big parties at Judy's place, so she can manipulate and push people around. And she never mourned Ronnie's death. She celebrated it. To further my point about not using Skynyrd music, you notice that we did use Call Me the Breeze.
Right.
And the reason for that is that, it's a J.J. Cale song.
Right.
All we had to do is, like anybody else, pay for the licensing fee and use the song in the movie. And
Right.
that's what we did. All of the young men and women that played all of us in the movie in our 20s, all of them put their hearts and souls into this movie. Brian Pereira and Tim Yasui from Cleopatra Films and Records, they never gave up. It would have been very easy for all of them to just throw in the towel and say,
Sure.
okay. But they hung in there, man, because they knew that we were right. They knew that Judy was flaunting her power to try to suppress First Amendment, which is, free speech, my right to tell my own story. She lied to a judge 30 years ago with what she called the blood oath and got a consent order decree, and that's what it was.
Right.
Judy was in a power struggle with Gary Rossington and Alan Collins.
Right.
Judy doesn't know anything about music. She doesn't write a song. She doesn't sing. She doesn't perform. She doesn't play an instrument
Right.
that I know of.
Keep
She
break-
lied to a judge. She got the decree, and she tried to use that against me, saying that I'm never allowed to tell my story because she gets every dime, every single penny of Lynyrd Skynyrd money to go to her. For what?
Wow.
It should go to the children
Yeah.
of the men and women that gave their lives for this band.
Absolutely.
And
Right.
I think that money should go to the children.
Absolutely.
And she'll deny it till the cows come home. She'll come up with a good excuse. She'll rationalize. She'll just plain lie, to make herself look like she's the injured party, But she is the aggressor. They started this battle with me.
Yeah.
And, I'm going to be the last Skynyrd standing because I take care of myself unless I'm hit by a truck.
Right.
Gary has abused himself and been abused by the people that's supposed to love him.
Yeah.
After 6 heart attacks, they asked him to get back out on the road and make us that money, Gary. Come on. Any doctor would tell somebody after a heart attack to take 6 months to a year to recover and get themselves strong. And they brag, all of them, Ricky Medlock and Johnny and Judy and Gary and Gary's wife, Dale Krantz, Rossington, Smith, Jones, Bobcat, she comes out and says, hey, Gary, get back on the road. Make us that money. I need to go to the mall.
Yeah, right.
And it's disgusting. They got to have that money, and it's disgusting the way they have treated Gary. Now, it's disgusting enough the way they have treated me over the years, and Vector Management and all that crowd trying to diminish my role in Lynyrd Skynyrd.
Yeah.
When I'm inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because of Ronnie Van Zant, not them.
Right.
All they do is cash the check. There's a difference between carrying the flag and cashing the checks. In answer to your question, yes, I wanted to use a little bit of their music, Ronnie's music, the band's music, my music, in the movie, but chose not to. Now, let me go to the positive side of that.
Right.
Judy used to love my sons, Chris and Marshall, and my family. We were all a family until she decided to let greed control her life. The upside of this is that I said to myself, I said, man, I bet we can write a Grammy award-winning soundtrack for a movie about something that really happened.
Right.
And I'm still excited about it. And my son Chris wrote 4 songs for the movie. My son Marshall wrote a prominently placed, beautiful song in the movie.
Yeah, it's
that
something
he wrote.
that the people that the fans that know every, they've seen every documentary, read every book, know every song backwards and forwards. Of course, when they see the film, they know that those aren't Lynyrd Skynyrd songs. But to the normal person, that's just kind of familiar with the band, knows, oh yeah, they had a plane crash, but they don't really know, they're not like the rest of us. The music, the soundtrack sounds Skynyrdy, if you will. Like, it sounds like that kind of stuff. And the people that put it together, I know yourself, your sons, Marshall and Chris, they an amazing job. I mean, it sounds, if you couldn't use the stuff that you guys wrote back in the 70s, wow, what a great way to pick up the pieces and carry on with that,
Well, thank you, Ryan. What's your whole name? Your all 3 names.
Ryan Joseph King, that's me.
Ryan Joseph King.
Yeah.
That's a strong name, man.
Well, thanks, man.
And of course, I loved Ed King, and we lost him, and he was amazing. So the name King always sparks,
It always it was always one of my hopes growing up, listening to you guys, as a kid. I had no idea why I was so obsessed with this band and just studied you guys. But the fact that Ed King was in the band, and we kind of have a little bit of a look like we could be family. And it always, growing up, I was thinking, how neat would it be if I traced back my, family tree and somehow Ed and I were related. I never checked, and I'm sure we probably aren't. But how neat that would have been.
Dude, I wouldn't listen. I do see the resemblance.
Oh, really?
And plus the love of the music, certainly, that you share with Ed. I've seen that firsthand.
Thank you.
And that's an interesting side to the story. You thought, well, maybe I'm related to this guy, and this is the guy that wrote the song that got Lynyrd Skynyrd, noticed.
Right. Yeah.
Ed was a major part. Bob Burns and Ed King don't get enough credit for making the Lynyrd Skynyrd band what it was. I don't know if Ronnie could have done it with any 6, 7 people. I really feel that. A lot of people disagree with me. But I think Ronnie could have grabbed 6, 7 people, whatever, and he could have made a success.
Yeah.
But the very special chemistry of the band that he chose, me being included in that.
Right.
After Bob was unable to continue to tour, I'm a live drummer.
Right.
And that they brought me in for that live power effect. It made me so proud to be and put the way I play toward that music and take it to the next level. And that's what I did. And, Bob was in my band, APB, for up until his death.
Really?
A few years ago.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah. I had asked him to join the band, and of course my band, APB, that wrote a monster song. To me, Street Survivor, the title track of our movie, is a bona fide Southern rock hit song. And if radio stations all over America don't pick up on the fact that it is one of the first in a long time Southern rock crafted song, that, man, I mean,
so you're talking
our hearts and souls.
You're talking about the song Street Survivors that's at the end of the film when the credits are rolling, right?
Yeah, it's on the soundtrack.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up, because and it looked like, did Warren Haynes have a hand in either writing or co-writing or recording that too?
I asked my band to write a song, a title track to the movie.
Right.
And Warren Haynes, being, a guy that grew up with Jerry Lida,
right,
the co-writer of the song, and Scott Rains from Alabama,
right,
who lives in Asheville for many, many years, and knew Warren Haynes, and then Warren being a hometown Asheville, North Carolina guy, and his, world success, and the fact that he was very influenced by Ronnie Van Zant, of course,
right,
as a Southern rock kid growing up, and the fact that we all love Warren.
Yeah.
So I asked Warren to be involved, and the rest of the band backed me up on that. And so Warren put in some really good work. We all crafted that song. We all recorded that song. The heavy lifters of the song were definitely Scott Rains, Jerry Lida, and Warren Haynes. Ronnie always taught, give credit where credit's due. So that's whose name is on that song,
right,
for the soundtrack. I ask everybody to write music for the movie, and I've been working on an album with my son Chris, and we knew that a couple of those songs would fit into the format of the movie. They would rock. They were swampy.
Yeah.
They were Southern rock-esque.
Right.
And as you said, a little bit of Skynyrd-esque. That's not by mistake.
Sure.
Ryan.
Absolutely.
I am a Lynyrd Skynyrd member, and maybe Gary's been in the band longer than me and co-founded the band, but it's been a part of my life for 40-something years, 44 years, whatever. It's been a part of Gary's life for 46 years or 47 years.
Right.
So at this point, what is the difference?
Absolutely.
So, and Marshall had this beautiful song, which the theme of his song is basically live each day like it could be the last day of your life. And it was appropriately played when we were pulling up to our airplane, myself and my wife in the Jeep and the rest of the band in 2 black limousines, coming up to our plane for the last flight before the crash. And my son Marshall wrote that song, and it's prominently placed, and I'm so proud of that. Then I commissioned a couple of pieces that were instrumental that you'll hear on the soundtrack that are unbelievably cool. One was written by my friend Brian Mabry up in Nashville, Tennessee, and Ed King had a hand in that piece, and it's used all through the movie. In the little section where we're in the studio, and it's just kind of a song over.
Yep. I know the scene.
All right, you remember the scene? Well, that was part of that song. And when we're in the limousines coming off the plane after we had a blowout on one of our engines, this is stuff with no vocals, but Ed King had a lot to do with that piece.
When we spoke before, I believe you told me that the soundtrack to the movie will be coming out on vinyl. Is that accurate?
Oh, yeah. You can go to Cleopatra.com, Films and Records in Los Angeles. It comes out in blue vinyl on an LP and white vinyl, and it's really beautiful. And then my son's Marshall's song is side 1, song 1.
I will definitely be the proud owner of that.
Well, it's available, and then you also get the movie, and then it's got bonus tracks in there, and you also get a CD of the soundtrack.
Oh, great! Well, that's a heck of a package.
And I don't do internet, I don't do email, I don't do any of that stuff, and I don't know what the price is. But for Skynyrd fans, I would hope that they would, whether you like the movie or not, whether you're a fan of Gary's and you're a fan of mine.
Right.
And let me reiterate this. I love Gary Rossington. I miss Gary. And they keep us apart because that makes more money for these brown nosers and ass kissers to steal from the band and from Gary and from me, as long as they keep Gary and I separated, because we're the only 2 left. They look at me as a nothing, and they look at Gary as the everything. His wife is constantly blowing smoke, going, "Oh, Gary, you're Elvis Presley, man. You're Elvis." And Gary tries to act like Elvis, like he's this rock god. And I love Gary, man.
It's unfortunate, man, because you can't get the
rock god.
Right. Well, I mean, he's been through it, but it's unfortunate because you can't get the time back, man. And you guys are really like, for lack of a better term, I mean, it's almost like one big, very dysfunctional family. You know what I mean? Like you see that with families all over.
I explained it. Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
You got to hear this. We wouldn't be a dysfunctional family if it wasn't for Judy Van Zant's greed and the manipulation of their management company, and them trying to tell all the young people out there now that Lynyrd Skynyrd still exists, and the 10 people they hired last week is Lynyrd Skynyrd, and they just replace they lose a drummer, they lose a bass player. They exist in a world of fraud.
It's really
a dysfunctional family. They are dysfunctional. Ronnie's family, Judy Van Zant, her children are dysfunctional because of their wealth and arrogance and self-given power and their greed. They are dysfunctional. I used to be friends with all of them, but they stabbed me in the back and left me for dead and stole millions of dollars from my family. I tried to ask them to come to the table, make a movie with me, but they chose to get a bunch of blood-sucking weasel attorneys and come after me. And the reason they lost is because they were wrong. And I wanted to tell Lynyrd Skynyrd fans the story. So there's going to be people that are fans of Judy and fans of Gary that are going to go, "Oh, Artimus is a poo-poo face, and he did this horrible movie, and they didn't use the right airplane," and all this stuff. Anything that people don't like, it's Judy's fault, because she spent $2 million on weasel attorneys, and that $2 million would have gone a long way on our budget. We only had, from what I understand, between $1.5 million and $1.8 million, to do the movie.
They had the opportunity to come to the table and work with you, Judy and Gary, and they, instead of doing that,
I'm saying they did. I asked them to.
That's unfortunate,
I asked
man.
them to through Vector Management. You have to be very clear on that.
Right.
I called Vector Management, and asked them to come, to ask Gary and Judy to come to the table, and let's all make a movie together.
Right.
And they chose to do me the way they did me, diminish my role, pretend that I was a nothing. Cleopatra had to make the film kind of about me.
Sure.
And about my perspective, because surely if we would have brought in other band members from the estates of Steve and the estates of Alan, the estate of Leon, the estate of Billy, well, had we made it together, all of the band members would have been given equal screen time, and we would have told a bigger story. Maybe that's another movie. Maybe that's a movie that they'll make someday, and they'll have the budget to get Nicole Kidman, to play the part of Cassie Gaines.
Right.
I don't know. We had to use unknown actors and actresses, and those kids put their hearts and souls into those roles.
Well, if I may, I got to tell you, just from my perspective, Artimus, and there were a lot of unknown actors and actresses, but whoever was in charge of finding these, and like you referred to them as kids, because they're younger, they're portraying you guys in your younger 20s and what have you, and what a job. I mean, they really do resemble them. You can tell they did their homework, and they got the mannerisms. And I mean, for people like me, and believe me, there's millions of me's out there that really have a true love for you guys in that band and the story, not just the music, the story. And these actors and actresses did an amazing job of recreating that. And I understand it's a lot of it is through your eyes, but I think you did a great job of telling the story, and I'm so glad you did. I remember when the movie about the Doors came out way back when, and I remember, and I was probably pretty close to a kid at that point, and I remember thinking then that somebody just wasted a ton of money and time about, don't get me wrong, I love the Doors, but wow, I mean, somebody really wasted a lot of time and money, because they could have done a story or a movie about a band with a really incredible story like Lynyrd Skynyrd. You can't make this stuff up. Pre-crash, the crash itself, and post-crash, it's an incredible story. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's absolutely amazing, and I'm so glad. And I know there's millions of other people out there like me that are so glad that you had the chance to make this film, even if they, Judy and Gary didn't come to the table with you. You did the best you could, and you forged ahead, and I know there's a lot of people that are very grateful that you did that.
Well, thank you, and you're right. I know that there's millions of fans out there in our world, the Skynyrd world.
Yeah.
Ronnie wrote these incredible songs, and it was hard to really compress the entire story, at least through my eyes, into the day before, the day of, and the day after the plane crash.